Konami has dropped some bombshells of Yu-Gi-Oh news today, and then there's also some crazy things that I know you need to know about. Today, big dog, we're going to be talking about everything that has happened over the weekend and some important information you need to know. Chat's going to be with me to help spread the love, so let's go ahead and jump on in. So as always, we like to start these videos by talking about some things that Konami has done very well. I like to say that Konami has done a pretty good job with the Yu-Gi-Oh format. It's good. The recent ban list fixed the game. I think it's fine. Fire format. I 100% agree. Now, there is still some problems in Yu-Gi-Oh that I'd like to talk about, but let's talk about the good things. Yu-Gi-Oh is a completely diverse format, guys. Like anything can top. Of course, we have our normal culprits like Labyrinth, Fire King, and Rescue Ace being some of the most played decks right now, but have you seen some of the other decks that made top cut over the regional weekend? Oh God, chat. It's a fire format, definitely a fire format. There was a Tearlament top, Red Dragon Archfiend topped, Orcus topped a couple of times, a lot better than what I expected. There was a Monadium that got first place. There's a Bestial Runic. There was a Invoked Dogmatica player that got third place. I told you it was a good deck. I told you. And what's crazy good about these decks that topped, they didn't need a Sinful Spoils or a Horus engine, but more on that later. Do you think Tier Horus is viable in this format? Well, it did top a couple of times. And ironically, I've been opening up my horizons from just Vanquish a little bit, because I did think that the deck was stolen. Apparently Bird had it the whole time. I just found it. But also because there are some other Yu-Gi-Oh decks that people are just not paying attention to that are incredibly good right now. Some of my only problems with the format, and I may sound like a broken record, I still think cards like Gimmick Puppet Nightmare and Red Dragon Archfiend Calamity should be banned, even though they're not making a huge impact right now. And the reason is because just because it's not doing anything at this second doesn't mean that it isn't a toxic Yu-Gi-Oh card and is just unfair to play against. Imagine, guys, if you're a new player going into a tournament, you don't have the best cards, you don't really know exactly what's going on, and you play against a player that Gimmick Puppet locks you or Calamity locks you. It just doesn't feel good. Calamity and Puppet are fair, stop us from locking or lose. Oh my God. I just gave you the perfect scenario. Some players are not like heavily invested into the game, so they want to play, and that would turn any new player off. I run Calamity, but I've only played it twice, and oh man, no! Ban all Calamity players, like give us your Costly ID. Should Gimmick Puppet go? Yes, but there are a lot of lingering effects that need to go. I agree, and I think Konami should address those type of cards because they're just not fun, and that's the purpose of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? To have fun. I only use Calamity for the OTK on turn 2. Oh my God, you guys are trying to justify this? There's no justification of stopping your opponent from ever playing the game. Now, I know that there's some other Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you may not like, so go ahead and post down below in the comment section. What are some of those other cards? I heard Droll and Lockbird, I heard Dimension Shifter, but don't just post your cards. Give us a reason why you think the card should go. But with that being said, I've actually heard there are some rumblings about a problem with a diverse Yu-Gi-Oh format. Chad, it seems like Konami just can't do some things right. I'm actually siding with them twice in one video, which is kind of crazy. It's almost never heard of. And the reason why I'm siding with Konami on this is because there's over 200 Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes in the game. Now, granted, some of these archetypes is as good as my sister's cooking, but it wouldn't even be logical to assume that only 3 decks out of 200 should be viable and everything else should just be completely bad. To be honest, out of those 200 plus Yu-Gi-Oh strategies, there's probably only like 15 to 20 that are actually viable, which in the grand scale of things is less than 10%. It's kind of ridiculous. When there's more diverse formats, it's hard to prepare for every single deck in the game, meaning sometimes if you do go against a particular situation, like the Calamity Lock or Gimmick Puppet that we talked to, sometimes you're just out of loose, and that's not fun. But I don't think that's an actual problem with diversity. That's an actual problem with certain Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I think that a lot of players' sentiment is misplaced there. Sometimes it is like a strategy that does something so ridiculous, and if you're not prepared, you auto lose. And if there are multiple strategies like that you can't prepare for every single one, Yu-Gi-Oh feels less fair. But again, I don't think that that's a diverse problem. That is a card design problem. I think we can all agree with decks like Millennia. If you're not prepared for them, then you can auto lose to them, which doesn't feel good. There needs to be a balance between every Yu-Gi-Oh strategy where if we're gonna make diverse Yu-Gi-Oh, we're gonna need decks to have clear-cut weaknesses that require skill to overcome. Not, hey, do you have these particular cards? No? Well, I win. Like playing your deck in a different way to play around a deck you aren't prepared for instead of just citing in some staples against the deck. GD, I wholeheartedly agree. I think Yu-Gi-Oh should move towards that. And that's why I think a lot of players have a sentiment against diverse formats. Now, to be honest with you guys, I can actually see both sides of the coin, especially now that you guys are speaking your thoughts. Though I do think that Yu-Gi-Oh should be naturally a more diverse format. I think Konami does not want a less diverse Yu-Gi-Oh format. Anytime we get into a situation like that, they immediately, I wouldn't say immediately, but they try their best to get us out of a 3-deck format and into a format where they can sell us more stuff, because that's what they are, a business at the end of the day. And lastly, guys, the big Yu-Gi-Oh news. I think Maze of Millennia is a very interesting Yu-Gi-Oh set. Maze is a hit? Yo, y'all think it's a hit? Triple Tactics Thrust is in it? I like it because we see the Armored Exceed spell. Bro, there is some hype about Maze of Millennia, but I want you to hold your horses just a little bit. I also have to give a bit more of a positive remark to this set than negative. So overall, I think Konami has been doing a great job to start the year. Maze of Millennia does a couple of things that are really good, but also does some things that leave a little bit more to be desired. The first thing is that it gave us Flame Swordsman cards. Bro, those Flame Swordsman cards, we talked about it on Cali Clips. Holy crap, they're crazy! The 2 archetypes in Flame Swordsman and Earthbound have obscure placement in a reset format. It'll bottom out 2 weeks after release. No! I don't think Earthbound is good. No! Okay, chat, maybe I'm coping, but I think that both Earthbound and Flame Swordsman, I don't think they're going to be world beaters, but I think they'll be really interesting cards that you can mix and mash inside of other decks, and also could probably be pretty viable as rogue strategies. And you know how much I love rogue. Bro, I'm about to Joey it up, chat. I'm gonna get my Flame Swordsman and I'm gonna knock him out the park. I think some of the game-changing ultras inside of Maze of Millennia, there's Bonfire, there's Transaction Rollback, there's Number 1, and then there's another card that I'm going to be talking about a little later, Triple Tactics Thrust, but those cards can really change the game. Bonfire makes so many decks like Volcanic and Centurion more consistent. Transaction Rollback gives more support to decks like Labyrinth and Dinomorphia. Then there's also some reprints, some really good surprise reprints. Rescue Ace getting a reprint is almost a godsend. I know the deck got hit, but it is the most represented deck over last weekend, so it's pretty good. Then it's Magispectors getting a preemptive reprint. They're getting more support in Phantom Nightmare. I really like how Konami used this set to support some of the budget players to getting in the game. Number 1 Infection Buzz King is a sleeper card. I hope players are paying attention to that card. It's crazy good. But there is one thing that I think Konami big goofed on. The Triple Tactics Thrust reprint. So Triple Tactics Thrust got a reprint inside of Maze of Millennia, which I think is kind of cool, but there's a couple of problems with that. One is that Triple Tactics Thrust isn't really like, I hate to say it because some people are going to come at me crazy, but it's not that good. I think there is a couple of problems with Triple Tactics Thrust reprint, guys. The first is that it's still going to be a very expensive Yu-Gi-Oh card. There are 11 ultra rares in an 85 card set, meaning that if you're buying 1 box to get a Triple Tactics Thrust, mathematically, you're not going to get it, especially if there's only 3 ultra rares per box. Come on now, guys. Hopefully they do fix that problem where they give you more ultra rares, possibly even 6 ultra rares per box. But if it stays the exact same way, it is not worth it whatsoever. Secondly, the reprints inside of this set are for more or less lackluster. They could have gave us some other reprints that are very expensive Yu-Gi-Oh cards to have helped budget players get into the game. They already gave us Magispector reprints for Phantom Nightmare and Rescue Ace. I think they could have actually gone a little bit further than giving us cards like Gazelle, King of Mystical Beasts, and Bepherment inside of the set. But the thing is, Konami already knows what the pattern is like. They did the exact same thing with Better on the Floor. You guys remember that reprint? If you look at the recent pattern, Konami has done this year after year. They give us a chase card reprint in a set, and then they reprint it several other times. So expect Triple Tactics Thrust to be the chase card in other Yu-Gi-Oh sets that may not be worth it. Thrust reprint sounds good until you realize getting 3 is going to be expensive still for a while. That's exactly what I'm saying. There's probably going to be like 3 Triple Tactics Thrust per case. That's still expensive. The irony behind this is that in the set that Thrust came out in, you got about 3 per case. So like it still same thing. Of course, Konami does have a huge reprinting problem, and I think that's for an entirely different video. If that's something you guys want to see, then let me know. But until then, guys, that's all the great Yu-Gi-Oh news that you need to know about. It's going to be an exciting format, and I can't wait to make more videos. Of course, if you want to see more awesome content, you already know what to do, big dogs. Check out these ones so I can catch you on the next one.